The warrior within, finding strength when life hits hardest. What if your greatest hardships were never meant to break you, but to refine you? I used to think strength meant holding everything together, keeping the walls up, pretending the storm couldn't touch me. But life has a way of finding the cracks. It presses where you're weakest, not to destroy you, but to reveal what's real beneath the mask. The truth is, life's most defining moments rarely come when everything is going right. They arrive as storms, sudden, disorienting, and raw. And when they do, the mind panics. It clings to the familiar, to certainty, to comfort. But the storm doesn't listen. It tears through the illusions we built to keep ourselves safe. I've come to see that resilience isn't about resisting the wind. It's about learning how to move with it. Each hardship carries an invisible lesson, a quiet invitation to awaken. And in that awakening, something shifts. The pain doesn't vanish, but it begins to make sense. This is where the real journey begins, the moment when the outer collapse becomes an inner calling. The point where we stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" And so begins the warrior within, finding strength when life hits hardest. The quiet before the storm. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. Before life tests us, it whispers. It comes softly, in restlessness, in routine, in the quiet erosion of meaning. Most never notice until the ground begins to shake. The mind, so accustomed to safety, trembles when the illusion of control breaks. Yet this is where transformation begins, not in triumph, but in fracture. The unconscious mind resists discomfort because it equates peace with predictability. But the psyche evolves through disruption. Storms are not punishments, they are awakenings disguised as loss. The collapse of certainty. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Friedrich Nietzsche. When everything we trusted begins to fail, the plans, the people, the patterns, something ancient surfaces. The collapse of certainty exposes the machinery of the ego, its desperate need for meaning that can be controlled. The warrior within is not one who wins battles, but one who remains conscious as everything familiar dissolves. Life's hardest blows dismantle the false architectures we mistake for identity. What remains is raw awareness, fragile but real. The illusion of safety. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Carl Jung. Most live inside psychological shelters, comfort zones made of avoidance, denial, and distraction. Safety becomes a prison, padded by routine and emotional anesthesia. We cling to habits that numb rather than heal. The unconscious mind bargains. I will trade authenticity for belonging, truth for peace, but each trade deepens the cost. The warrior within begins by noticing this economy, by recognizing that comfort, when worshipped, becomes decay. The currency of pain. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Carl Jung. Pain is the price of awareness. Every emotion suppressed accumulates interest in the vaults of the unconscious. Depression, anxiety, rage, these are not defects, but debts. The psyche demands repayment through feeling, not avoidance. The warrior's path is not to destroy pain but to translate it. To stand before suffering and say, "Teach me." True strength is not resistance but integration. The willingness to let pain shape a deeper form of intelligence. The mirror of mind. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. The Buddha. When life hits hardest, the external world becomes a reflection of the internal one. What we call fate often mirrors our own unexamined mind. The warrior learns to see conflict as a mirror, not an enemy. Each disappointment reveals where we were unconscious, where expectation replaced truth. The battlefield is internal, between awareness and projection, clarity and delusion. To fight unconsciously is to repeat the wound. To fight consciously is to transform it. The shadows demand. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. The shadow, all we refuse to see in ourselves, waits patiently beneath collapse. When life turns dark, it speaks. It tells us the truth we avoided, the parts we abandoned. The warrior within does not conquer the shadow but converses with it. For in its depths lie power, creativity, and freedom. The unconscious is not the enemy. It is the unclaimed terrain of the soul. The price of peace is honesty with one's own darkness. The psychology of endurance. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. Viktor Frankl. Resilience is not endurance through suppression but awareness through chaos. The unconscious mind reacts, the conscious mind responds. When pain comes, we stand in that space, between reaction and response, and rediscover agency. Modern life confuses endurance with denial, productivity with strength. But true endurance is psychological flexibility, the ability to hold suffering without becoming it. The warrior knows, surviving is not enough, one must awaken while surviving. The fracture of identity. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. Carl Jung. When the old self breaks, identity feels like a shattered mirror. We see fragments, roles, expectations, names, all the masks we once wore to be loved. The crisis that breaks us is the same force that reveals we were never these fragments. The warrior within stands amid this debris and listens. Strength arises not from repairing the old self, but from birthing a truer one. A self not shaped by fear or inheritance, but by awareness. The weight of modern survival. Man is not suffering from the lack of means, but from the lack of meaning. Viktor Frankl. In modern life, strength is often confused with speed, endless productivity masquerading as purpose. But beneath the fluorescent hum of work and distraction lies exhaustion. Emotional, moral, existential. We have built systems that reward numbness and call it success. The warrior within must rebel quietly, not against the world, but against unconscious survival. To live consciously is to choose depth over efficiency, presence over performance. The silence between battles? Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Anne Lamott. After collapse, the psyche requires stillness. Silence is not absence but recalibration, where the nervous system rewrites its truth. The warrior's greatest weapon is stillness, because silence reveals what pain once hid. In quiet, meaning returns, not as explanation, but as presence. Healing is not the victory after war. It is the awareness that the war was always within. The return to conscious power. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Ralph Waldo Emerson. True power does not roar, it resonates. When life hits hardest, the unconscious bargains for escape, but consciousness chooses embodiment. To feel deeply is not weakness, it is intelligence in motion. The warrior within stands not above pain but within it. Discovering that awareness itself is strength. Every blow from life becomes alchemy, turning fear into insight. Confusion into clarity, loss into presence. The cost of awakening. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Awakening is expensive. It demands the loss of illusion, the death of comfort, the surrender of false belonging. But what is gained cannot be measured in the language of survival. The warrior within walks not toward victory but toward consciousness. Where suffering is no longer punishment, but participation in life's full spectrum. Strength is not found in avoiding life's blows, but in becoming awake enough to transform them into meaning. This is the expensive psyche, where we explore what it truly costs to live unconsciously. Thanks for your time. It's been a delight. What should we explore next? Comment, share, and save your insight. Subscribe to Orbital Reads and keep your thoughts bright.